Hi, how you doing? Welcome back, and welcome if this is your first time here. It's my continuing series of bass reviews. All these basses that I do little reviews on are basses that I own, unlike some other channels where they may get things in and out. You know, I'm not at the level of sponsorship yet where I have people sending me basses. I'm going to try to get some that I don't have. But anyways, today, as you saw from the title, we are looking at the Sterling by MusicMan Ray34. What does that mean? Well, Sterling by MusicMan is the budget line of MusicMan basses, which is a line by Ernie Ball. What does that all mean? MusicMan was a company that was started by Leo Fender and some other people. Leo Fender, you may or may not know, was the guy that gave the name to Fender Music Instruments. He didn't invent the electric bass, but he popularized it and improved it. And now Leo Fender was a major player in electric musical instruments. Did a lot with the guitar, but I would say arguably he probably had a bigger impact on the bass, because it wasn't. I mean, electric guitar existed before he came out with the Telecaster, and then improved upon it with the Strat. But the electric bass didn't really exist in the popular scheme of things until he came along and made the precision bass, which he then improved in 1957, and then he came out with what he originally called the Deluxe, which became the jazz bass. So he was constantly looking to improve his designs, which is kind of funny when you think about it, that Fender can't seem to do anything now. Anytime they try to vary too far from these tried and true precision and jazz line, nobody likes it and no one buys it. But Leo, he sold the company to CBS. That's a whole other story. And he had a non-compete for 10 years. Well, once the 10 years was up, he came out with this. And he was working on it ahead of time. Now, this is a little bit different, obviously. This is not a 1976 MusicMan Stingray. Stingray bass. What was great about the Stingray? Well, like I said, Leo was always trying to improve. He made this new massive humbucking pickup. This here is Alnico 5 pickup. He played around and found that probably this was the best placement for it. He took input from some big players at the time, Louis Johnson, or the Brothers Johnson, chief among them. The other thing that was great about, other than this huge pickup, was the Stingray was the first production commonly available instrument to include active electronics. And at the time, it was a 2-band preamp, which had master volume and bass and treble boost and cut. And that was what Leo did. He came out with a Sabre bass, which made some different changes on that. And then he sold out to someone named Ernie Ball, who was a string manufacturer at the time. And they took over and ran with the MusicMan line when Leo went over to make his own company again with George Fulton called G&L, where he continued to innovate in the bass world. But the Stingray, it's a classic instrument, but because it's had Ernie Ball has been able to make changes to it over the years, and the first major change that Ernie Ball did with the Stingray was and I was thinking the late 80s, was to come out with the 3-band preamp, which brought in a mid-control. So that was that. Now this one, and like I said, this is their budget line, their import line. It is made in Indonesia to their specs, and it is probably the closest you're going to get to an American bass. Now, to an American-made Stingray at a fraction of the cost. Sterling by MusicMan makes a broad line now. They originally started with a very cheap offering, and then now they have offerings in a few different lines now. But the sub series is the most affordable, where you can get a 4-string for under $300 and a 5-string for under $400. This bass itself here typically, I think, is listed around $800, but you can probably find it on sale anywhere from $600 to $800 in that range. It is aimed squarely at what Fender's Mexican series is, and it holds up very well. Similar in price, superior in quality, I think, and we'll get into that. But so, what does this particular instrument have? So this is what's called the Ray34, Stingray 34. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what the nomenclature means, but the 4 does refer to the fact that it is a 4-string. And it is very similar to the Stingray. The bridge, it's more like the original Stingray bridge was very large and had mutes built into it. Over the years, they've slowly but surely have shrunk the size of it. So this is very similar to what the more current Stingray has. You can see my light reflecting there in the pickguard. I'm going big time. The body itself is ash, which is a good old standby wood. You can see nice big grain there. A very popular wood for using, not popular wood for using with in basses, especially in the 70s. The neck is roasted maple, which is, started out a few years ago as a very high-end offering, but has now made it down into a number of lower budget offerings. If you saw my review of the Ibanez EHB 1005, there's a link at the end to the playlist of my bass reviews. Check that out, and you'll know about the roasted maple there. Now, this one here is not to the level of quality of the Ibanez, but that's not necessarily a knock. It is very well done. I don't know if the light there does justice to it, but it's not too dark, but it has a very nice, smooth satin type finish. And then the Stingray, the other defining feature of the Stingray, other than the pickup and the oval pick guard, is the 3+1 headstock. And overall, I mean, these are decent tuning machines. A lot of the imported basses, they scrimp a lot on the hardware. I would say that these are a notch up from the ones that Epiphone uses. They're not perfect high quality, but they're totally passable. I've had no issues with slack or tuning or binding on these like I've had on some other cheap bass tuning machines. So these work very well. Again, the pickup is a 3-band, 9-volt system with an easy open battery door back here. So nice and simple. The only issue I've had with this bass, and it can be common, is the input jack is a little, the prongs maybe could be spread out a little further. So when you you have to really make sure you insert the cable. If you don't jam it, if you don't push it in all the way, innuendo, it doesn't seat. So you have to make sure that it clicks in, which I've seen people complain about that on some of the other instruments too. To me, it's not a big deal. Another issue to keep in mind on these, and I don't know if I have an outlier or if my friend Low End Lobster, who we'll get into more in a second, just has bad luck. But this bass weighs a little over 9 pounds, 9 pounds, 4 ounces, I think. So, or maybe even less, 9 pounds, a couple ounces. So it's not a lightweight bass, but it's not an overweight killer. Probably for someone who's very sensitive to bass weights, this one may be a little heavier than you'd like. I've heard reports, and that's where Low End Lobster comes in. He's had 2 of them. His first one got damaged in shipping. That one weighed 11 pounds. His replacement weighs 11 pounds. So if you can, check one out before you buy it. Don't buy it online. These are very common in guitar centers. You'll go into Guitar Center and you will see, you'll typically see one of these. They have some other ones too, the dual pickup one. But again, this is kind of more or less what the classic, or the not so classic because it's not a 2-band preamp. They have a classic version with a 2-band preamp. This is kind of what the run-of-the-mill average Stingray should be. Brand new, an American Stingray goes for $2,000, $2,100. This one here you can get for less than $800, and you know, you're not going to be missing out. Aesthetically, it looks the same. Sonically, it's very similar. I'm going to link in the description to a video that Low End Lobster did comparing 7 different Stingrays, a number of from the Sterling line and a number of American ones, so you can hear a whole range of differences. Be sure to check that out and show Low End Lobster some support if you haven't. But anyways, let's get down. This is going to be pretty simple as a show off here. The strings, Ernie Ball makes their own strings. I'm, until recently, a D'Addario guy, but anytime I've had an Ernie Ball bass, I have put the Slinky strings on it, and it works fine for me. That's the only time I do it. So, the only time I varied from D'Addario, but I've recently discovered another string company, courtesy of Low End Lobster as well. But we'll get to that another time. What I am using for recording is I am going into my Mesa WD-800. A video will be coming on this soon. We have it set for as clean a sound as possible. The EQs are all centered. The parametric mid EQ is taken out, so it doesn't affect any of the sound there. I'm playing through an AER Cab 1. You won't be hearing that. I am running direct into a sound card, so you'll hear the direct sound of the bass on the recording. And yeah, so we'll run through some things. Woo. All right, so this is with the EQs all centered. We get the volume up all the way, and this is what a Stingray sounds like. Hopefully I remember what I played. But that's bassline sound. Everything zeroed out. Nice and straightforward. You notice some of the characteristics of the Stingray sound, and that the Stingrays are known for a snappy, high top end. And that's definitely apparent here in just the natural plain sound of the bass. Alright, so for fun, let's roll everything off. So this is with all the EQs out. What do we get? Obviously, a big drop in volume because EQ is basically, boosting the volumes of frequencies. So there's a cut in volume there, but that's not a bad sound either. It's pretty usable. All right. Now, one sound that is like the ultimate Stingray sound, as I mentioned, the original two-band EQ was just bass and treble. So what would happen back in the day was people would just dime the bass and the treble all the way, crank the volume up, and then apologies for my lack of slapping ability, but that is what the Stingray sound would be. Bit of low end going on there, and a lot of high gliss. Perfect for slapping. And I have the mid centered there and not scooped out, but the sound is definitely mid scooped. If I cut the mids all the way, there you go. That's the sound of a million people slapping. A million everywhere. Anyways, so there you go. That was the sound with the bass and treble boosted and the mid cut all the way. So let's try it with the bass up all the way. Okay, let's try it now with the bass up all the way. Okay, now let's try it with the bass down all the way. Let's try it with the treble boosted all the way. Now, treble cut all the way. Now, let's try the mids boosted all the way. try with the mids cut all the way. So, you can see there's a lot of variation with the EQ there, and a lot of different sounds you can get. The sound I like is I will roll the treble back just a little bit and boost the bass just a little. And that's a sound that I find very, very useful. Yeah, so that's a sound that's kind of like my default sound on the Stingray. People accuse it of being a one-trick pony. I don't think so. I think you get a lot of variation, especially with the 3-band EQ. But that is kind of like the sound. I use it a lot of recording. We've been doing a lot of recording with one of my bands. We've been sharing tapes back and forth. And what I've been using is the Stingray for the most part into a SansAmp bass driver. And it records really well. So if you're a player and you want a good, reliable bass with a lot of usable sounds, you could do a whole hell of a lot worse than this bass right here, the Sterling by MusicMan Ray34. Check it out. Every Guitar Center, I think, has one hanging on the wall. They run a lot of specials. I got mine on a special. It was, I forget what price it was. I did not pay full price for it, but brand new. Comes with a bag. I mean, come on. What more could you want? Classic sounds, classic styling, great quality, at a really good price. So, please, leave a comment, like, subscribe if you like what you want. Check out my playlist of all my bass videos. There's another video that'll probably pop up for you to check out as well. And, again, show some love to Low End Lobster. Check out his video that I'm going to link in the description, comparing all the different types of Stingray basses. So yeah, any suggestions or anything you want to see, please leave a comment. I have a whole bunch more videos coming up. I'll be doing a comparison of my EHB basses, and you'll keep an eye out for that. Or, of course, maybe you've seen that one already and you're catching this one after I did that one. So, whatever. A weird warp. But, yeah. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching. Check out my playlist. Subscribe. Peace out.